Good morning. Let's see here. Bright and early on this, what's today? It's Thursday already, or is today Wednesday? I can't remember. Today's Thursday. Wow. I love short weeks. That's for damn sure. Welcome to another edition of The Shellin Show. I'm Andrew Shellin. I am your host. We will be watching NPR. Not watching because you can't watch NPR, but you can listen to NPR. And we're going to listen to NPR now.
The program.
Congress set aside $700 million and relaxed some of those rigid requirements so more people could qualify. So for the past year, tens of thousands of borrowers like Heather Austin have applied for this emergency temporary fix. But NPR has obtained an audit of the program's first year by the Government Accountability Office. And here's the deja vu. GAO says, as with the original program, 99% of applications for this expansion of PSLF are also being denied.
I think we were disheartened. I think we were discouraged.
Melissa Emery-Aris led this new GAO investigation.
And you want it to help a lot of people. And you don't want borrowers to be confused about the eligibility criteria and to face a high denial rate. And yet that's what we found.
The GAO report out today says most denials, 71%, were because of a technicality. Borrowers who know they don't qualify for PSLF still have to apply for it, so they can be rejected before they can apply for the fix. And that's exactly what's happened to Matthew and Heather Austin.
What sort of Kafkaesque thing are we in here where I apply for one thing, I'm told I'm denied for this, and if I'm denied for this, I should apply for another thing. And then when I get to the second thing, I'm told that I haven't been denied for the first thing. I'm just cross-eyed reading these things.
In its review, the GAO recommends that the Ed Department simplify the application process and give borrowers better information to navigate such a complicated system. For its part, the department says it agrees with the GAO's recommendations about how to improve the programs and that a number of those efforts are already underway. Corey Turner, NPR News.
No idea what they were talking about there.
Wisconsin health officials still investigating why a number of people have come down with chemical pneumonia after vaping. They think some of those individuals vaped THC as the ingredient in marijuana, as you know, that gets you high. We're going to talk to a Minnesota State Department Health Department epidemiologist about what's happening in the state of Minnesota around that issue. That conversation comes your way in a couple minutes from now. We'll also check a forecast that includes storms moving across portions of north central Minnesota, north central Minnesota, Cass counties, Crow Wing County right now. This lasts until the next couple of minutes. Pequot Lakes, Crosby, Bacchus, Pine River, Emily. You're under the gun for some severe weather.
Support comes from Envision Distinctive Eyewear's Harry Larry Trunk Show, featuring his bold French designs and sunglasses made by his son, Terry Leslie. Trunk Show at all locations September 11th through 14th. Hours at envision-optical.com.
One of the stories we're following, parents who publicly berate their kids' coaches might want to hear about a Minnesota Supreme Court ruling. The High Court decided yesterday that parents who publicly criticize their kids' coaches don't have legal protection if they make false statements. More on this story at nprnews.org. 58 degrees in the Twin Cities. It's 58 at the airport and 55 degrees here in downtown St. Paul. Fair skies out there. High today, about 82. We're going to take a big jump up in temperature. It's going to feel a little more humid today. A south wind at 10 to 15. Mostly cloudy skies overnight. Clearing skies tomorrow. Highs will be in the mid-70s. Chance for rain Saturday night, and Sunday.
It's going to suck all week.
Schools are navigating how to talk to students and families about gender, including identity, pronouns, and bathrooms. I'm Angela Davis. At 11, we're talking about how to create a healthy and inclusive environment for all students. At 11.
I'm Kathy Wurzer. It's Morning Edition here on NPR News. The Minnesota Department of Health continues to investigate 27 cases of severe lung illness that appear to be linked to vaping. Symptoms include shortness of breath, chest pain, fever, a cough, vomiting, and diarrhea. People who are affected have ended up in the hospital for days or weeks. Nationwide, more than 200 similar cases have been reported. Joining me on the phone with an update is Stacey Holtzbauer. She's a senior epidemiologist with the Minnesota Department of Health. Good morning, Stacey. How are you this morning?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me, Kathy.
Absolutely. Based on interviews I know you and your staff have been doing with folks who are sick, what have you learned about what they were vaping?
So we are interviewing essentially all cases who are reported to us from our healthcare providers. And thus far, we've interviewed 12 cases, and 12 out of those 12 have divulged that they've vaped THC, and the vast majority of them have also mentioned vaping nicotine products as well.
You mentioned that these are just the reported cases. Could there be more people who might have gotten sick and just haven't gone to the hospital?
It's possible that there are more cases. Currently, all 27 cases have been hospitalized that have been reported to us. So we would expect that there could be, a broad spectrum of illness. And so there may be more milder cases where people have experienced lung symptoms such as shortness of breath, fever that didn't last very long, and they never sought care. But we would still like to hear about those cases so we can essentially describe, the whole gamut of presentation.
So it appears that for those who you've talked to, they were vaping THC, the psychoactive ingredient in marijuana. Were these illnesses caused by that ingredient or how the THC was ingested?
At this point, we don't know. We are working with our partners at CDC and the FDA and our Minnesota Department of Health Public Health Laboratory to test products that people who have become ill were using prior to their illness onset. And all of our cases who have reported using these THC products have reported buying them off the black market. So we have absolutely no idea what was inside these cartridges that they were vaping. We don't know what solvents or other ingredients were in there. And at this point in time, we have no idea what's causing the illness.
I mentioned how the THC was ingested. What do we know, about how vaping affects the lungs?
Well, we know that there has been reports of lipoid pneumonia prior to this illness outbreak, occasional reports. And essentially, this outbreak brings up, the department's larger concern about vaping in general. It's completely, unregulated at this point. There's no way to guarantee the safety of, legally obtained products. And we don't exactly know what are in the cartridges. But what's different about this outbreak is that we're seeing essentially a cluster of cases that are presenting with severe lung injury, and that is unusual.
Final question for you. Are you worried about how little we know about the long-term effects of vaping?
Absolutely. I have 2 young children, and I think there is a perception that vaping is less risky than, say, traditional cigarettes. But in reality, we really don't know the long-term effects of these products, both legally and, products that are obtained off the black market.
All right. I appreciate your time this morning. Thanks much.
All right. Well, thank you.
Stacey Holtzbauer is a senior epidemiologist with the Minnesota Department of Health.
Weather reporting is supported by Hofferman Water Conditioning. Family owned and operated for nearly 50 years, Hofferman provides Kinetico soft water solutions that are non-electric and designed for efficiency, so you use less salt. HoffermanWater.com.
Bumpy start to Thursday morning, at least in certain parts of the region. Joining us with a look at the radar is meteorologist Ron Trenda. Good morning, Ron.
Yeah, good morning, Kathy. The strongest thunderstorms now have moved off into Cass County and Crow Wing County. Some pretty strong thunderstorms up there, and now I see a severe thunderstorm warning just came out. We'll get details on that in a second for that area. This one is for southwestern Cass County, northwestern Crow Wing County, and it goes until 8:15. Thunderstorms extend eastward all across the northern part of the state from Moose Lake up to Floodwood, Grand Rapids, over toward Duluth and into northwestern Wisconsin near Spooner. Everything tracking to the east-southeast, so they'll pass to the northeast of the metro for the most part, but we could see an isolated shower thunderstorm here in the metro this morning. Another chance late this afternoon and evening. Highs today mid to upper 80s southwestern Minnesota to 60s in north central northeastern Minnesota. Here in the Twin Cities, 81 for our high, south winds 15 to 25 miles per hour.
So it looks like today could be a little bumpy. How about the weekend? Tomorrow and the weekend, for that matter.
Yeah, tomorrow looks mostly dry, highs in the 70s, southern and central Minnesota, 60s to the north, 75 tomorrow here in the metro. Off and on showers, unfortunately, likely most of Minnesota and western Wisconsin this weekend. Highs only in the 60s.
Highs
okay, it's been kind of fallish here, so we should expect that, I guess. Quickly before we go, Hurricane Dorian update.
Yeah, center of Dorian, 70 miles south-southeast of Charleston, South Carolina, moving north-northeast at 8 miles an hour. 115 mile per hour winds, hurricane force winds extend out about 60 miles. And center of Dorian expected to move close to the coast of South Carolina today, near or over the coast of North Carolina tonight and tomorrow.
All right. Thanks, Ron Trenda.
Marketplace Morning Report is supported by...
People can't fucking merge. Oh my God. I broke a glass. I had a glass in my car apparently, and it just broke. It was from me, I think. It was either from me breaking or from me being pissed off and accelerating. God. Minnesotans suck at driving. They're just terrible. They're possibly the worst. I don't know for sure. I've heard bad things about California and Atlanta, but this is pretty bad. Just not traffic-wise, just stupidity of the drivers.
T. Rowe Price. Invest with confidence.
I'm David Brancaccio in New York. Once upon a time, say a year ago, the benchmark 10-year interest rate in America was up near 3%. Now, with the ongoing trade war and the U.S. central bankers thinking of lowering rates for a second time, U.S. bond yields have surged super low. This morning, the 10-year bond yield is at about 1.53%. You can borrow for practically nothing, something that has caught the attention of some big corporations. Marketplace's Justin Ho joins us.
Yeah, Apple revealed yesterday that it's issuing $7 billion worth of bonds. And, it's not just Apple. Walt Disney, Coca-Cola, Caterpillar, United Airlines, 21 companies issued almost $30 billion in debt on Tuesday alone.
Low interest rates.
Yeah, companies are borrowing just because it's a good time to borrow. We've been reporting a lot lately about the rush of people trying to refinance their mortgages. This is kind of like that. Lower interest rates on government bonds means companies can borrow more cheaply too. John Deere, Deere & Company, the tractor maker, issued 30-year bonds paying 2.8%. That's a record low for that kind of debt. Interest rates are so low, companies can pay off older, more expensive debt early. And in Apple's case, it'll use the cash for share buybacks and dividends. It's said it will also be used for day-to-day operations, for buying stuff, maybe even digital acquisitions, though, we'll see about that. Apple already has about $200 billion in cash and hasn't been buying many companies lately.
Well, that money and still borrowing. Marketplace of Justin Ho, thank you. Let's do the numbers. The FTSE, London, down 0.7%, but Dow and S&P futures here each up 0.9%. The NASDAQ future up 1.2%. Some of this is the U.S. and China agreeing to restart trade talks next month. A private sector tally of payrolls this morning finds 195,000 more people were getting paid in August. That is higher than Wall Street's estimates. The official jobs report is Friday. Worried about the appeal electronic cigarettes hold for young people, Michigan has become the first state to ban the sale of flavored vapes. They come in candy flavors. Earlier this year, San Francisco banned the sale of e-cigarettes altogether. Marketplace's Tracy Samuelson reports.
The bubblegum, candy, and fruit flavors that can tempt young people are already banned at the federal level for regular cigarettes. Michigan is doing the same for e-cigarettes. But there are two sides to the e-cigarette story, says Kenneth Warner, a longtime tobacco policy researcher.
My great concern with the rush to judgment on flavors and other policies on e-cigarettes is that they're so narrowly focused on the worry about the impacts on kids that they're ignoring this much larger population of existing adult smokers who could benefit from e-cigarettes
He says e-cigarettes can help smokers quit or lower their risk of tobacco-related diseases. Vaughn Race, the director of Harvard's Center for Global Tobacco Control, says many adults may not need fruity flavors to do that, but he thinks Michigan shouldn't have banned menthol e-cigarettes.
Continuing to allow menthol would have been a better alternative for the purpose of giving an option to the 40% of adult smokers who prefer mentholated products.
Vaping industry groups say the ban could create a black market for flavored products or hurt small businesses. I'm Tracy Samuelson for Marketplace.
This is when, people have too much time on their hands. Politicians have too much time on their hands. You're supposed to zipper. It's one every other. So when we have people saying there are benefits to this product, oh, but I don't like this very certain particular flavor of this product. First of all, a kid's breaking the law. Kid broke the law to get those e-cigs. That's that kid's issue, okay? I did it when I was younger. I did it when I was 16. Had my friends buy me a pack of cigarettes, It's an absolute stupid thing. If one form of it should be legal, then it all should be legal. Not how you perceive as it being viewed by people, or how you feel that a certain target, if it interests a certain target demographic. Kids can do it. If you're not going to make it illegal, then if you're not going to make it the whole thing illegal, make nicotine a legal substance. Make it an illegal substance, if you're going to do that. But if you're going to, beat around the bush, I don't want it to be this very particular, flavor, go do something else with your time. Stop deciding how people live. I'm so tired of the government trying to decide how we live. We're not victims.
With tight margins, and when the companies that own the ships go belly up, they declare bankruptcy and cut their losses and walk away. But they're guys on those boats. Some of these crews are stuck on the high seas or near a foreign land for upwards of a year, and they have no clean water, and they try to jump overboard and swim to shore. Some of them drown. Even when they get to shore, they don't have papers. So it gets very desperate.
Maybe there are some technical solutions we could learn a bit from air travel. Many airlines have transponders, and so air traffic control knows exactly what airplane is out there, usually. That's not the system that applies on the high seas.
Yeah, there is this really interesting contrast you find between airplanes and boats. They're both traveling through space that belongs to no one and everyone. And yet in the airline industry, there are strict rules about knowing everyone who's on board. Did they all get on? Did they all get off? What is it carrying? Where is it headed? Virtually none of those rules apply to vessels. And there's just been this long cultural resistance in the fishing community to that sort of oversight.
The book is called The Outlaw Ocean: Journeys Across the Last Untamed Frontier. Ian Urbina, thank you so much.
Thank you.
And the gold rush toward fake, juicy meat continues, given all the attention this summer to Impossible Burgers and Beyond Meat. The meat giant Hormel has announced its new brand to be called Happy Little Plants. Some may hear an echo of the late PBS TV artist Bob Ross there. Remember his Happy Little Trees? And Kellogg's Morning Star is now going with, ready for this, it's called Incognito. Kind of a dad joke shaped like a hamburger patty. This is the Marketplace Morning Report from APM, American Public Media.
Hi, I'm New York Times food columnist Melissa Clark, and I'm excited.
There are some decent meatless burgers out there, I would actually say. Nothing that'll beat the real thing, but there are some decent ones.
You can get Weeknight Kitchen free on Apple Podcasts.
This is NPR News 91.1. KNOW, Minneapolis, St. Paul. Fair skies, 57 degrees at the airport at this hour. Just kind of clicking through my traffic management cameras, trying to get a beat on what's going on out there. And it looks like it's relatively quiet, except for the Minnetonka area. 394 westbound at Carlson Parkway. An accident there slowing things down. Weather. All the heavy stuff's to the north. Some severe thunderstorms moving across the Brainerd Lakes area right now. A chance of showers and thunderstorms in the metro this morning. Otherwise, it should be a partly cloudy day. A little muggy, warm. The high should be 82 degrees. We've not been there for a while. Tomorrow's high, 75. Hurricane Dorian has strengthened back into a Category 3 hurricane as it churns along the east coast. It's currently off the Carolinas. I'm Kathy Warzer. It's Thursday, September 5th, and this is Morning Edition on NPR News. This hour, we'll hear from residents of a senior living facility in South Carolina who are staying put despite evacuation orders. Plus, can selling bonds save rhinos? And why the State Department is offering cash to the captains of Iranian oil tankers. It was on this date in 1882 when the nation's first Labor Day was celebrated with a parade in New York. Today's birthdays include actor and comedian Bob Newhart. He's 90. R&B singer Terry Ellis turns 56 years old. It's 8:01, and the news is next.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Corva Coleman. Hurricane Dorian strengthened overnight, and top winds are now back to 115 miles per hour. That makes the storm a Category 3 hurricane again. It's about 70 miles southeast of Charleston, South Carolina, and headed north. Hurricane Dorian reached Myrtle Beach overnight. As Scott Morgan of South Carolina Public Radio reports, the area is facing a quadruple threat.
This is the first hurricane to hit South Carolina this year, but not many residents evacuated. On Wednesday afternoon, Horry County Emergency Management Coordinator Randy Webster laid out what the coming hours were likely to include for the communities.
For the course of this event, flash flooding, heavy rains, tropical storm force winds, potential for tornadoes are all on the table.
By 4 a.m., the National Weather Service issued its first tornado warnings for the region. Meanwhile, Hurricane Dorian strengthened to a Category 3 overnight. By 6 a.m., tens of thousands of residents of South Carolina were without power. For NPR News, I'm Scott Morgan in Conway, South Carolina.
Hurricane Dorian left utter destruction in parts of the Bahamas. At least 20 people there have been killed. Christelle Brown is a reporter with the Nassau Guardian.
It's really been a very emotional time for Bahamians. The most we can do right now is pray, send aid. But what's happening now, the focus is really on rescue and recovery. We still believe that there are many people who need help.
She spoke to NPR's Morning Edition. New documents obtained by NPR shed light on a troubled federal loan forgiveness program. As NPR's Corey Turner reports, a year-old effort by Congress to forgive the loans of public servants is instead rejecting nearly everybody.
The program is an expansion of the troubled Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program that began in 2007. The idea was to reward 10 years of public service and on-time student loan payments with ultimate loan forgiveness.
10
but
years.
PSLF has been badly managed, and thousands of borrowers complained they were given no guidance or bad guidance about its strict rules. Last year, Congress relaxed those rules and set aside $700 million so more public servants could qualify. But a new review of that fix, conducted by the Government Accountability Office, suggests that it too needs fixing. It found of 54,000 new requests for loan forgiveness, the Ed Department has okayed just 1%. Corey Turner, NPR News.
China says that trade talks with the U.S. will resume in Washington during October. That's a few weeks later than both countries had planned. There have been reports that U.S. and Chinese trade negotiators were trying to work out a schedule. The news of the talks comes as both countries have increased tariffs on each other's products in the countries. You're listening to NPR News from Washington.
Support for news comes from Americans for the Arts, committed to transforming America's communities through the arts and arts education, supporting the nonprofit arts industry, which employs 4.6 million people nationwide. Learn more at americansforthearts.org.
For NPR News, I'm Phil Picardi. Nearly 2,000 Minnesotans from 93 countries became U.S. citizens in a pair of ceremonies yesterday in St. Paul. One of the new citizens is Israel Pinner, who came here from Mexico. His family was granted asylum when he was 5 years old. He says he's excited to be a citizen and to be able to vote.
I feel inspired. I know that I feel thrilled to know that my entire family is on board with all of us becoming citizens and participating citizens in this great country of ours. And at the same time, just like having dialogues with our neighbors and with family members, community members about where we come from, what we want our neighborhood to look like, and take it from there.
The number of people becoming citizens reached a 5-year high in fiscal year 2018. More than 756,000 people were naturalized, and more than 9,000 of them were Minnesotans. A San Francisco man has purchased a lighthouse on Lake Superior. Dan Crocker reports on his plans.
34-year-old Stephen Brody bought the lighthouse on the end of Wisconsin Point in Superior, Wisconsin, sight unseen for $159,000. He won it at auction last week from the U.S. General Services Administration, which sells off lighthouses the U.S. Coast Guard no longer needs. The 56-foot-tall lighthouse was built in 1913. Brody says he plans to restore the interior and hopes to spend a few weeks every summer there and maybe rent it out to writers or as an Airbnb.
I think what's really important to me is being able to create a place where I can go and visit or others can come and visit that really just feels like a unique snapshot in history.
The lighthouse is listed on the National Register of Historic Places, so any work Brody does will have to maintain its historic integrity. He says he's already sent the money to the government and plans to visit the lighthouse for the first time next week. Dan Crocker, NPR News, Duluth.
The Twin Cities Film Festival will give Oscar-winning Edina native Jim Burke a Lifetime Achievement Award at its annual gala tonight. Burke produced Green Book, which won the Best Film Award this year. Burke says it's been a good year for him, and he jokes the idea of getting a Lifetime Award implies he's about done.
Nevertheless, it's still so wonderful to be honored for my professional career in my hometown by a festival that I think is so expertly run.
Burke also produced such films as The Descendants, Election, and Cedar Rapids. He is currently developing a project with Minneapolis writer and director Bill Pohlad. In sports, the Twins and Red Sox close out a 3-game series tonight in Boston. The Red Sox beat the Twins last night 6-2. The Packers and Bears open the NFL season tonight in Chicago. The Vikings kick off against Atlanta Sunday in Minneapolis. Right now, some sun in the Twin Cities, the temperature at 57 degrees. This is NPR News.
Programming is supported by Comcast Business, providing gig-fueled network solutions that can help businesses deliver results that go beyond expectations. Comcast Business, beyond fast. More at comcastbusiness.com.
It's Morning Edition from NPR News. I'm Noel King.
And I'm Steve Inskeep. Let's check on 2 spots along the eastern seaboard, 2 of the places that have had to prepare for Hurricane Dorian. The eye of this giant storm is out over the Atlantic Ocean, moving about 8 miles per hour. Its counterclockwise winds have been blowing ashore in places including Savannah, Georgia, which is where we find NPR's Bobby Allen. Bobby, hi there.
Hi, Steve.
How's the weather where you are?
You know, it's really mild, to be honest. I mean, I was just outside and it's not raining. There are some kind of strong gusts, but for the most part, you wouldn't really know that a hurricane is due east of us here in Savannah. It's honestly, it's kind of peaceful right now. It's strange to say, but that's the way it is.
It's a lovely city, Savannah, Georgia. What has it been like the last 24 hours as people try to get out of the way?
Yeah, so the city's completely boarded up. There are sandbags around homes and businesses. You know, some 500,000 people are under evacuation orders now. So the city itself is kind of deserted. It's a bit of a ghost town. When you go out to some of the barrier islands on the Georgia coast, you're getting stronger winds, you're getting rain. But again, even there, the flooding is not as extensive as originally forecast. And it seems that Dorian, much like its impact on Florida, is not as intense as some people were originally predicting.
Now, I was looking at the map from the National Hurricane Center, and I guess if you're standing as you are, Bobby, in Savannah, if you were to look almost due east, the eye of the storm would be right out there somewhere, right?
That's exactly right. It was a Category 5 storm when it was over the Bahamas and really decimated the islands there, and it weakened and then it strengthened again. So now it's about a Category 3 storm. I think the winds are, more than 100 miles per hour. So it's a serious storm to be reckoned with still, but for folks along the Georgia coast here, everyone's kind of buckling down and just hoping this goes away by this evening as it's supposed to, and then it'll start bearing down on the Carolinas, of course.
And of course, the next state up is South Carolina. How are things there?
So in South Carolina, already there are thousands of people without power. I'm seeing online that, there's water flooding in the streets. The winds are extremely strong. There's even a chance, Steve, that this is going to strike the coast, whether in South Carolina or in North Carolina. Forecasts say that this might actually clip the coast. And if that happens, then they're in for some really, really severe impacts that could be catastrophic.
You mentioned 500,000 people under evacuation orders. What are you hearing from some of those people?
Yeah, so a lot of people are gone. Some people stayed, including this guy I talked to, Eric Simmons, and he lives on Tybee Island, which is just off the Georgia coast. It's a barrier island. It's one of the most vulnerable spots because it's the easternmost point of the Georgia coast. But I found him as he was about to grab a slice of pizza at a pizza shop, and he told me, look, I've got no plans of leaving.
Just some wind. If it's going to be a direct hit, then yeah. But we're all right. We got, our luggage and stuff in the back of the truck here, and if we want to go, then we can go. I got a place in Jessup, so. But right now, just hungry.
Although I got to mention, he's probably fine, but if you're on a barrier island, you can't really be sure of getting off that island if a hurricane really were to strike, right?
No, that's right. And the mayor of that island was really concerned because, during some past hurricanes, Matthew and Irma, one of the problems was people who stuck around and, were seeking shelter. The winds were so bad they couldn't even send helicopters in to save people. So they were thinking of those past hurricanes and thinking about terrible situations of how rescuers couldn't get to people and trying to avoid that again. But unlike Matthew and Irma, this storm, Dorian, did not get as close to the Georgia coast, so it was largely spared.
NPR's Bobby Allen in Savannah, Georgia. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Steve.
All right, as Bobby mentioned there, Dorian is approaching the coast of the Carolinas, and forecasters say it could make landfall in North Carolina. Now, if it does, it'll be the first Category 3 storm to hit that state in more than 20 years. So there are now mandatory evacuation orders in places like Dare County, North Carolina. Robert Woodard is the chairman of the Dare County Board of Commissioners. He's on the line with me now. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Ms. King.
So where are you at this moment, and what are you seeing?
I am physically in Manteo on the mainland at our emergency management office. We have a facility here, and we're getting ready to have another control group meeting with our control group at 8 o'clock this morning. So I'm on the mainland, but I physically live on the barrier island in Kill Devil Hills.
And the barrier islands are quite vulnerable, as I understand it?
Yes, ma'am, they are. We're 100 miles of a barrier island. It's only about a quarter of a mile wide. So we are very, very concerned about this storm. Our visitors have been very diligent in getting out. We had a mandatory evacuation of 300,000. We have our citizens are very, very resilient, but we've had a lot of our citizens have evacuated, and our businesses are closed, and so we're hunkering down and preparing for it. But it is very, very concerning about the storm surge on the sound side, as well as getting a possible direct hit. I am so concerned about our citizens in Hatteras Island because that sticks out so far.
There hasn't been much political news lately. I know yesterday it was kind of benign news. Monday I did film one, but they didn't have anything. It's just been the weather. I mean, we can talk about the weather if we want to. We can make this a weather podcast. Who's that guy in Ontario? He's a little mentally special. All right, guys. Well, that was a boring episode there. If you are still watching this, I didn't really talk at all, but give me a like, share, subscribe. It's bright and early. 8:12, 8:13 in the morning. I'm going to smoke a cigarette, and then I'm going to start on work there, and I will probably work all the way up until 6 p.m. with maybe a 10-minute break. So there we go. All right, guys, have a great day at work, school, poop on the toilet, whatever you're doing, all right?